Okay, so what we're going to do today on a crossroads, this is the same thing for a cross country, a hardball, all the same thing. I'm going to show you how to take the fender off, take the wheel off, calipers, all that kind of stuff. What we're going to do is we're going to put that air ride on we were telling you about earlier. We're going to show you how to take the forks apart and how to actually install the air ride in the front of one of these bikes. Now on this bike it's already been changed a little bit. You got the spoke wheel on there and a bigger fender. So yours is going to be a little bit different on how a stock fender comes off. It's virtually the same. This bike has a block where a bolt goes in it. On a stock bike you just have a bolt and a nut. So you take the bolt and the nut off and the fender comes off. It's still basically the same thing. So we'll show you, you just take the bolts out of the bracket. You got 2 bolts here and 2 bolts on the other side. Do the same thing on the other side. And then just pull the fender out. Like I say, a stock one comes out the same way. So that obviously gets you to your wheel. Now the next thing you're going to do is we're going to loosen the bolts up for the calipers, which is the 2 bolts back here. They're 8mm Allens. Okay, so these 2 bolts here, you don't lose any brake fluid, nothing like that. Just loosen these up. The caliper will come right off. Like I say, no fluid leaks out, nothing like that. And you can just let them hang here. Take that bolt off, just pull it right off the back. Comes right off. You can just let it hang right there. Do the same thing on the other side. Now, on this side, on a lot of you guys' bikes, you got to be careful. You have ABS, okay? So, when you're trying to pull the caliper off, you got your wire here, okay? So we have to disconnect this. It's real easy. You don't have to be nervous about the ABS or anything. But you'll see there's a little bolt right here. That little bolt right here, you have to take out. Okay, now, take that bolt out. Now your sensor is right here. You just kind of jiggle it. There's also a clip, it's kind of hard to show you here. There's a clip that holds the line in. You got to just kind of pop that clip apart so you can get your wire out. Okay, this little clip here. Just pull that. Now, you want to just kind of jiggle this. Don't pull real hard. Don't pull on the wire. Try to grab the bracket here. Pull that out, and that'll come right out. Now you have to be really careful because there's always some washers in here. These are shims. They go right here, you know, when you put that back in. So watch when you're doing that, you don't lose these shims because it's real important. So once you have that off, that's all you have to do. But that's your speed sensor for the ABS. Okay, so you can just let the caliper hang. The rest of it is, you're done with that. So now we'll go around to the next part. And we're going to get the front axle out. Now, you have 2 pinch bolts here on the axle. You have to get these bolts loose first. Before you loosen the axle, you have to loosen the pinch bolts. The pinch bolts are 6mm Allen. So just loosen them. You don't have to take them all the way out. Okay, just loosen those, because what that does, that squeezes your fork together on the bottom and pinches your axle in there. Now, we have the bike already put on a jack. I leave the jack down a little bit so the wheel's on the ground, so you have a little bit of stability when you're doing this, because this is in there pretty tight. And the other thing, it won't let the wheel spin. So you just want to loosen that up. Okay, and then you just keep unscrewing it. You'll get to a spot where it just won't unscrew anymore. And what you can do is you look on the other side and you can see the axle actually going through. Once it stops, that's because it's out. It's not in the thread anymore. So you have to physically pull it out. So, you know, don't just sit there cranking saying, why isn't it coming anymore? Once you hit that spot, it won't come anymore. So sometimes you can grab this, and sometimes you can't. You might need pliers. I don't know if you can see that coming or not, but it's starting to come. So what I'll do now is I'll jack the bike up to get the weight off the wheel, because you don't want the weight on there, because you'll never get that out, because it'll put it in a bind. Just jack it up a little bit until the weight comes off. Okay, and then you can start trying to pull this out. And some of these are hard. Some of them you have to go from the other side with like a block of wood and kind of push it through, because it's in there. So just kind of pull it out. And then just kind of balance the wheel, get it in the spot where that'll pull out. It'll come right out. Once you do that, just pull the wheel out. It's that easy. You want to be careful because you have some spacers in here. The spacers, make sure they don't fall out on the floor, because they are different left to right. So make sure you be careful and you don't lose those. So you're just going to set the wheel aside. Okay, so that's all there really is to taking the wheel off. You can see that was 5 or 10 minutes. It's not that big a deal. The next thing we're going to do to get the forks out, we want to get the forks out of the triple tree. Now this is a big bagger triple tree. Like I said, this guy has some work done on this bike. So the triple tree for your stock bike, it's the same thing. You take it apart the exact same way. One thing you want to do is take these plastic fork guards off. Okay, they will break. You have to be really careful. All you got to do is kind of raise them up, just push them up. They just slide, turn them and pull them off. That's all there is to it. Don't try to turn it while it's in there, because you'll break it. Slide it up and then just pull it off. They're just kind of spring loaded, kind of spring clip on there. When you go to put them back on, you just do the same thing. Just push them on and snap them down. That's all there is to it. So that is very easy. So what we have to do now is up here on the triple tree, you have your clamps right here and right here. There's bolts in there. What you want to do is you want to loosen those bolts up. And this is all stuff you can do yourself. You don't even need a helper for this. But if the bolts are in the back here, loosen the bolts up. You can see that. I'm loosening it and the fork drops. So make sure you hold on to the fork. Sometimes they don't come out that easy, but that's all you got to do. Loosen the bolts, slide the fork down, and you're done. That one's out. Go around and do the same thing on the other side. Like I say, you don't really have to take them all the way out, just loosen them up. When you get to the last bolt, make sure you hold the fork just in case it's going to fall out. And then just swivel it down. That takes the other fork out. So we just showed you in a matter of 10 minutes probably that you can take the wheel off and have the forks out on the crossroads Cross country is basically the same thing, a little bit harder to get to the bolts because of the fairing, but not that big a deal. You can see you can do this yourself, you can save yourself a ton of money, and it's not hard at all. So I didn't have bolts pre-loosened or anything like that. It was that with the time that you saw was what it took. So you can see how easy it is. You guys try it yourself and save yourself some money. Next thing we'll show you, we'll go over to the bench, we'll show you how to take this apart and how to install the air ride stuff.